Hey, everybody out there. Appreciate you listening. Please follow and subscribe if you like what you've heard in our first two episodes. Here's our third episode of Blades Banter. Me and my esteemed colleague, my father, my coach, get to talk about football and what's going on in college football today. We're lucky because Michigan's had such a great year. We get to talk about them. What's up, Coach? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year to everybody. Looking forward to New Year's Day.
Yeah,
Not New Year's
absolutely.
Eve, New Year's Day. Behave on New Year's Eve so you can be ready for a spectacular day of college football on New Year's Day.
Yeah, it really is. The granddaddy of them all, they call it for a very good reason. The Rose Bowl Stadium, beautiful South Los Angeles, California. I know
Up
that.
against the San Gabriel Mountains, the beautiful San Gabriel
Yeah,
Mountains.
yeah, absolutely.
And then when the sun will set on the San Gabriel Mountains during the course of the game, and then the lights will go on,
Yeah,
which is always a spectacular setting.
yeah, absolutely. You've seen it a lot of times. How many Rose Bowls have you been to over your lifetime?
Well, I've been to 9. I went to one as a player in 1971, which we unfortunately lost. And the waning seconds of the game when a Stanford kicked the field goal to beat us. And then, of course, during the course of my coaching career, 7 times with Coach Schembechler,
Yep.
when we played some tremendous opponents, SC in Washington, and we won a couple of those finally. And then I was able to broadcast on WJR for one with Frank Beckman back in
Nice.
the days when they had some other people broadcasting. IMG wasn't the controlling partner. And then once to watch your great team, Robbie, when they went out there and played a really, really good SC team under Pete Carroll.
Yeah, well, what an experience. I can still remember getting down there, practicing down there, staying in the Marriott, going to the Beef Bowl, the Parade of Roses,
Yeah.
Disneyland, all that stuff that the kids are doing and posting on social media right now. I don't know if you saw the Jordan stuff they got. It's pretty sweet. The
I know they got a
jumpsuits.
nice. I know they got a nice gift bag,
Yeah, yeah.
which is great for the kids.
Yeah, we
And
got pretty nice ones in 2006. I was wondering
yeah,
what happened. What was going on in the 80s? What'd you get, a watch or something?
we got to watch. We didn't get much, but that's okay. It was prior to 1984 uh, uh, when I was involved. Well, for the most part,
Yeah,
in the 1984, as you know, college football uh, coaches association took control, and that changed the whole television situation. And I consider that the beginning of the modern era of football, actually, because the exposure became so great,
yeah,
and then the recruiting venues expanded. So a kid from San Francisco, suburban San Francisco, who was a nondescript player in high school, but only one offer from the University of California, came to Michigan and then became the greatest football player to ever play the game, Tom Brady.
yeah.
So Tom was exposed to Michigan because of the television, and that
Absolutely.
has changed. That has changed everything. It used to be a kid wouldn't go far away because his mom and dad could not see him play, so it was a difficult decision. We played. We were allowed one regional game and then one national game, which was always the Michigan Ohio State game, which people look forward to around the country, and they still do. So, so everything has changed. NIL, the portal, everything's different. Everything's progressing and moving forward at really, really at a fast pace,
Yeah,
almost too fast. It's some disarray, but the Rose Bowl continues to be a magnificent setting for a game and a great experience for young men. Interestingly enough, uh, our ambition was always get to the Rose Bowl, be the Big Ten Western, be the champions of the Big Ten Western Conference, and play a great Pac-10 team back then.
yeah,
But now this is the next step before Houston, and we're playing a formidable adversary Our opponent is a great program historically. And under Nick Saban, it has been the dominant program in college football. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, in
And
the
he's
BCS
certainly
BCS era and in the college football playoff, that's for sure.
he's for sure.
Yeah,
And so he's proven it. He's a tremendous coach. He's always had a great staff, and he has surrounded himself and he recruited with some of the best players in the country. And we watch them all on Sunday. As we look at this game, and I was researching a little bit, there's different estimations between how many of the seniors or potential people that would be eligible for the pro draft. And they rate Michigan has 20 and Alabama has 22. That tells you the caliber of the players in this game. I think they're a very evenly matched team. I do not see a glaring weakness on either side.
yeah,
Uh, and so we have a great coach. They have a great coach. We've demonstrated the ability to come together in adversity. They have too. They've got better during the course of the season because they started off very slow. And as you know, Milroe was benched in the beginning of the season. And in the last 4 or 5 games, he's come on to be one of the best players in the country.
yeah. He's
And
unbelievable.
well, I have nightmares about Milroe.
Yeah,
Milroe, to me, is Vince Young incarnate.
yeah.
I mean, he is really a tremendous player. And geez, I see him come out of that pocket, and then the ability to stand back there and throw. He's extraordinary.
So
And
did you see? Sorry to get you off track, but did you see what he said? Bill O'Brien told him.
Bill O'Brien told him that. Well, that
Told,
was out of
told,
context.
yeah,
Bill
yeah. Told him
O'Brien
he
doesn't,
sucked.
Bill O'Brien. Well, he said he should consider changing positions. He didn't say you sucked,
Yeah,
but that was the interpretation.
yeah,
Now, I learned a long time ago. Now, Bill O'Brien is a guy who speaks his mind and is very frank,
yeah,
and has distinguished himself as a coach at Penn State and had some good teams down there in Dallas. I mean, in Houston, but and is a coordinator of Alabama. But I learned a long time ago not to tell people what they can't do,
yeah.
particularly young men. You can tell them what they can do, particularly when they're evolving, and that has motivated Milroe.
Oh yeah,
Much like the competition with Drew Henson motivated Brady. And
absolutely.
so these guys get a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to prove it. And Milroe has demonstrated,
Oh
boy,
yeah,
he's a magnificent player. And, I hate to make comparisons, but he's got mobility. He and JJ have many of the same attributes.
yeah. You're right.
And they both can come out of the pocket. They both obviously are students of the game and make really good judgments. Choices are so important. And he seems to make real good choices about whether he's going to put the ball under his arm and take off, which that's really scary when he does it. But he can throw the ball. I
Yeah.
mean, look at that pass that he launched to beat Auburn. So I'm like Coach Banter. I'm dreaming of Milroe and his ability to beat us with his feet. I will tell you this: one of the best things that we have had that has allowed us to prepare for him is we've been able to simulate Milroe with our quarterback Orgy.
Yeah.
He
Orgy.
is a very talented young player. He's a raw player. He's not at the level that Milroe is now, but he has great feet. He has the ability to run around. So he has allowed us in our defense to prepare for a guy in Orgy. Orgy probably is as fast
Oh,
and as
oh,
quick.
absolutely. Yeah, he's a beast.
They're very comparable.
Yeah.
So we've been able to simulate Orgy during the practice, and then we can decide how we're going to defense him and the best way to do it, because we can learn from what we're doing in practice with the film session. Also, the players could see what kind of speed that kind of guy has and what you're going to have to do to defense him. And you better
It's
get on your horse
it's
when
so
he
critical.
takes off.
It's so critical, Coach. It's funny that you say that because at every single level that I've ever coached at or I've ever seen, even in the NFL, they bring in wide receivers. When they're playing the Ravens, they bring in a wide receiver to play quarterback, and they do a whole, probably 10-minute period of contain. I mean, at
Very
every
difficult.
single level, when there's a mobile quarterback, if you don't have a guy that you can see in practice, it takes you a little while in the game to that first play, that first series, that gets your defense off the heels. But if you're practicing against it all week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, now when it comes, you're ready to plant that way, to contain that way, to open your hips that way, to all the different things that you have to adjust when you can't just drop and turn your head or do. You have to be, your head has to be on a swivel constantly, and you got to be able to break on a dime.
No question. And so this kid is a challenge, but this has allowed us to simulate him. So in practice, which is unusual, I believe, Vince Young is maybe the greatest college player I've ever seen when he played at Texas.
Oh, man, he was great.
I mean, spectacular. And he beat us in the Rose Bowl, beat SC in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Just, he was unbelievable. And I think he was too early in his development. When he came out, I don't think combined skills like they do now. The mobile quarterback, the ability to extend the play and then make good choices about whether to run the ball, pass the line of scrimmage, and/or pull up and throw the ball to open receiver. So I don't believe we probably were able to simulate.
You know what I wanted
he was.
You know what I wanted to ask you? So who did we play this year that's a mobile quarterback? Who's the best in the Big Ten? Guy in Maryland.
Well, Maryland.
And who was our toughest game? I'm very confident what we're going to do against Alabama and Milroe, but just so people that are listening understand, I mean, that's a mobile quarterback. He gave us fits. Like that's
sure.
It's not just hey, we're going to show up and get it done. We got to play. We got to play.
By the same token, and actually, when we've been beat in big games, we've had great teams. It's been primarily a result of an unbelievable quarterback performance by the opponent on the opponent's side. Now, Alabama, by the same token, if you look at Saban and you look at when he's had difficulty and when his team has not done as well as they historically have done, it's been against a mobile quarterback. So Saban is dreaming about J.J. McCarthy every night, and we're dreaming about Milroe. So what we have is this unbelievable situation where both teams have these quarterbacks that are capable of making extraordinary plays. Now,
Coach,
I like J.J. McCarthy.
I know you do. The naysayers, what people are saying to me that probably, who knows, they don't know anything about football, but they're saying he's only thrown one touchdown in the past 5 games. I'm saying he's only had to throw one.
Well, he hurt his ankle badly against Penn State, and that was not publicized. And he had trouble. That was his right ankle, and there was trouble planting off that right foot. And also, our coaches, and that was Coach Moore, I think his tactics were correct. Once he got ahead, he ran the ball and didn't put JJ in harm's way to put the game away. They knew that the Iowa offense was deficient and would have a hard time scoring points against us. So they were satisfied running the ball. And when we got stymied in the red zone, they were satisfied with 3 points. Now, we can't do that in this game. Now, I do believe we should take points every time we get a chance.
Yeah.
But once we get in the red zone, we're going to have to capitalize in this game. Now, they have a great defense. And Saban is a defensive coach. He is a defensive back coach. As a matter of fact, he still works with the defensive backs. He's a technique coach. He's a fundamental coach. I just saw a couple of different clips of his practices right now out there at the bowl game. They're well run. They're well coordinated. The kids are going. Actually, what they're doing is fundamental drills. They're doing tackling drills. They're doing pat and go. They're doing looking the ball and they're doing all the appropriate things. So you start in practices, individual, then it goes to group, and then it goes to team. So you build a practice like that. That's exactly what he does. He's an old school coach, and so his kids are fundamentally sound and with great ability, and that's why he's had great success.
Well, and not only are his kids, his coaches. I mean, think about the carousel of coaches he's bringing in. Tommy Rees. I know he was the quarterback at Notre Dame and was just the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. But now he's a young guy coming down to Alabama, taking over
Yep.
a quarterback
Mm.
controversy, working for Nick Saban. I mean, he's got new coaches in there every year. They're stepping up to the plate and meeting his expectation. It's just a
Mm.
testament to how he runs a program. Really,
It,
and he's out there coaching his kids. He's out there coaching
and
the DBs harder than anybody else on the
yeah,
team.
and people want to coach for Nick because they understand that there's an opportunity to go forward. And anytime, like the coaches for Coach Harbaugh, and us with Coach Schembechler, when you can be around a great one, you're going to benefit from it. When you see how they conduct themselves, player-coach relationship, all of the ingredients that are required to be a successful head coach. If you've had the opportunity to work under one of those guys, it's to your great benefit. But I'm going to tell you, Sharon Moore's not going to play, and neither is Saban, neither is Harbaugh. No, I bet on Harbaugh over Saban any day. And but the guys are going to play in the middle of that field, and the coaches have done great preparation.
So,
A
and
lot of things that count, Robbie, happen at
yeah,
halftime. And I do want to say this. I don't think last year we played what I considered a TCU team that was not as good as we were. Now I give them credit for winning the game. We didn't block the backside well. There's some things we didn't do, but we threw 2 picks for 6.
Coach, we
He
also threw
threw.
a touchdown that didn't get called a touchdown.
There you go. Well, those things happen. So and then we got in a shootout, and we ended up losing. I do not feel. And then prior to that, we played an unbelievably talented Georgia team. I mean, one of the most gifted teams, one of the best teams in the history of college football. That team was loaded, and they were
Coach,
great.
they're up there with Miami, USC, some of the great teams that they're going to have so many
Oklahoma,
pros.
we played a great Oklahoma team in an Orange Bowl when Switzer hit them. Yeah, there are going to be a lot of kids come out of there, but none more than us. That's why I say we're very evenly matched. Now Georgia, I don't think this Georgia team that Alabama beat, it was as good as the Georgia team the
No,
previous 2 years.
no.
Now this is a new season. There's been a long time between the Iowa game or the SEC championship game and this game. To our great benefit, we were really nicked up, and our offensive line was hurt. We were hurt up front, and they've been able to heal, and they're ready to go. We're going to greatly miss Zach Zinter. He's a great leader. Now he'll be there on the sidelines, and he'll be there to support the guys. But he was a great leader on and off the field. But we have some guys that are going to move around, and we have enough guys up there where we can block. I believe we can block successfully. Although we're going to have to sustain a really gifted front, particularly the outside backers. Number 15 is the defensive SEC Player of the Year. The edge guys are really good. Now, the great thing about that, one thing about our quarterback, you can get an edge coming upfield as long as we usher them up. JJ can come inside of them, come underneath them, and then pull up and deliver the ball. JJ McCarthy can make every throw on the field. There's not a throw he can't make.
I agree.
I hope we get Roman and Wilson involved. Number one. Now they have defensive backs that are going to be first rounders, but I think Roman Wilson is as fast as anybody in college football. They have a receiver on their side that is a great track man that can run past you. Now we have Will Johnson over there, and we have some guys that can take care of those guys. He has not as been their receiver has not been hasn't produced like Roman Wilson. And the one thing I noticed about Alabama this year, different from other years, now they have a good. Every player lining up for Alabama is a quality player
Yes.
and potentially a pro player, and that includes second and third team probably. But there's not a CD Lamb out there. There's not a Devontae Smith, the great Heisman Trophy winner,
Yeah.
who was the closest thing I ever saw to Carter in college football. Anthony Carter is a great player I had the privilege of coaching. I also don't see, like our great player with the Lions, Gibbs, a running back of that quality. Now, they've used 3. Now, Saban's going to run the ball. it's interesting when you look at the balance. Saban runs 65% of the time.
Oh yeah.
He's thrown the ball. He's run the ball 518 times. Now, part of those are quarterback runs. When a quarterback puts the ball, they're pass called. They've had the pass called. But then he's passed 302 times. So he's 65-35. He's going to run the ball. He's going to play great defense, and he's going to kick well. I mean, that's what he believes in. Now he's going to run motion. He's going to give the ball to his receivers. He's going to attack the perimeter, and so will we, I hope, and I'm certain we will. Now the other thing that I'm going to point out too is they have the same problem that everybody else has, covering our tight ends. How do you match up with those guys? So Nick understands this. So our tight ends, if you put a linebacker out there, although he has linebackers that can run, they're going to have a hard time running with those guys. And those guys, they're going to turn their back and run with a guy. And then those tight ends are able to turn.
We go and get the ball. Yeah.
Then on passing situations, if you're going to put a defensive back on him on a 50-50 ball, those tight ends are going to get it every time because they're tall. And so they're kind of like Gronk. How do you match up? Now, we're going to have to keep those guys in too. Yeah, we're going to have to keep those guys in and have them chip a little bit too, Robbie, because those linebackers that come off the edge, they call them edge rushers now, are formidable. I do want to say this. We've been our turnover differential has been good. We're plus 1.31 on the year, and they're 0.62. So they have a positive, about half a turnover a game. Our defense has, let me see if I get this right, make sure I got it. We've scored 5 defensive touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
They've scored 2. That could be a big factor in this game. Stainstrill and those guys have shown the ability to get the ball and then turn it into a big play. Turnovers, football's a game of errors. The team that makes the least errors almost always wins. That's Paul Brown. The man who invented football said that.
Well, so that's what I was going to say about us last year too. You're talking about TCU. We had 2 interceptions, House, and we had 2 times where we got stopped inside the 5, where we went for it on 4th down. Yeah. It wasn't just 2. J.J. McCartney played a great. People are saying, "Oh, he didn't show up." Coach, he showed up and he competed his ass off last year. We had 2 picks, and then we had some plays go against us. One a double reverse, and then the other one, I think our fullback got stuffed on the 1-yard line. I mean, that's
they had a. I don't want to demean TCU, but TCU was not that TCU team is not the caliber of this Alabama team. Now, J.J. McCartney is a year older. J.J. has been really made good choices this year. The quarterback, the most important thing he'll do, 50% of what he does, is before the snap. And those are choices he makes before the snap. And then, of course, when he has the ball in his hands and he's going through his progressions, making good choices. And the defense like Saban, that guy's going to do everything he can to confuse you and change the coverages at the snap of the ball. Our receivers are going to have to read that and adjust on the run and adjust their routes. And then JJ's got to make good choices. I believe that Milroe will run the ball at least 18 times because I think they have to run him to win. And I believe they do. And he's got to be productive that way. By the same token, he's proven that he can throw the ball and take that. And he can take the top off the defense. He can throw the ball long. By the same token, we have taken, because of the injury, we have not run JJ. But he's going to have to run. He's going to have to come out of the pocket and make some key first downs for us to win this game.
Well, and Coach, we got a double-headed monster in the backfield. We haven't even talked about our run game. I mean, we're going to run the ball down their throat.
Blake Corman. Well, we'll see. But we're not going to shy away from running the ball.
What do you think? Do you think they're going to be?
We're going to make them prove to us that that they can stop us.
Yeah.
We're not just going to abdicate the run. He's going to run, and he's going to pound on him, and he's going to be patient. That's one thing Jim and Tron Moore have demonstrated, that they're patient. So if we're not having the best run, we're getting 2-3 yards. and they don't get frustrated. They don't stop running. And when they run, that defense is going to have to, he's going to defense the run. He's going to have to put his seventh and eighth defender up in the area of the line of scrimmage to stop the run. And when they do that, then we gotta pull the ball out of the stomach on a play action and throw the ball. And when they're usually playing zone, and make a great play and a great pass to take advantage of that. We're going to have to find out where they're weak on defense. I do not see a weakness, and we'll try to have to exploit it. By the same token, they got to do the same thing. Our defense, I have confidence. Our defense can run. I think our defensive line guys, particularly the three guys, the big guys up front, the edge guys are great athletes, and they have the ability to get around those big tackles. They have a great tackle, first-round draft pick. But I think they can beat them because of their ability to run. Across the board, Alabama is powerful and big. They're 6'5", over 350 across the board. Our guys are 6'3", about 330, but they are powerful, and they got a great quick step. So they remind me, although they're not that caliber yet, some of them may be, like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's not the biggest guy, and he's going against much bigger defensive linemen. But they can't handle him because, boom, he comes off the ball, and he's powerful, and he has strong legs, and he has a great first step. So I feel good about our defensive line and our ability to get and as you mentioned, Robbie, and you can articulate this, to stop a guy like Milroe, what do you got to do? The defensive guys.
They got to contain. Yeah.
And they got to stay in their lanes, right?
Yeah. Oh, they got to stay in their lanes and in their gaps. If you get a guy peeking, that's all he needs, and then he's gone. If he gets a crease, he can go. I mean, you got to be gap disciplined. We have to be gap disciplined, and we have to stay. We have to lock out and get off blocks and make tackles.
And we have to do this. We have to do this around Milroe like this.
Yeah.
And if we get him when he resets his feet in the pocket. But we can't be spinning. We can't. We want to run some games up there, but at the same token, we cannot give him big creases because he's gone. So we got to control the pocket and frustrate him and get pressure on him, make him reset his feet. So he looks downfield. When you reset your feet, you have to take the vision off downfield, and then you have to look down and recalibrate. So we have to try to do that to him, and then we're going to have our linebackers, and Colson can run, and so can Barrett, be spies. So they're going to hang in there a little bit, and we'll do that with some of our defensive linemen. We'll bring a linebacker and hang a defensive lineman. So they're there when Milroe decides to try to escape the pocket. We're there to tackle him and bring him down. So it's going to be exciting. I mean, this is going to be a chess match.
Yeah.
And both teams are going to be highly motivated. Both teams have ambition. And now, I'm going to say this about Michigan. They have chemistry. They are kids that have come together through tremendous adversity. What they went through the last part of the season, when the Big Ten decided to deny them their head coach, I think wrongly. I think wrongly, and we've gone through all that. But it happened. They didn't waver.
Yeah.
They have strong leadership. They have a goal. They've been here before, and they know they've come up short. So they're ambitious to go farther. Alabama, by the same token, started off with difficulty, much criticism. It's like Columbus down there, The focus on those guys is so great, and they get tremendous criticism, and people start to give up on them, particularly when they start to struggle against Southern Alabama. The first game, they barely beat them in 17-3, whatever, and then they had to change. They exchanged Milroe, and they got his attention. That's for sure. But then they started to come on, and get better. And I think their ambition was to play great and win the league. And now they have to reset. And whether or not it's the same psychological approach, my sense it is, because Saban knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get a team back. But I think in the past, Michigan was satisfied that we got there. Now, you get to the Final Four, you're satisfied. But now you got to get the whole thing. They want the whole thing. And I had the privilege of going to the awards banquet. And when all the kids got their awards, they all got up and said the same thing. I owe this to my teammates. I owe this to the guys in my room, my teammates that play the same positions. and I owe this to the team. I mean, there's a tremendous sense of team, and it's not manufactured. These guys care deeply about each other, and they like each other, and they're going to hang in there, and they'll go fight, and they're skilled and gifted. In the past, we played SC teams, and they're much faster. They've been faster across the board. I believe that Michigan's as fast as anybody in the country. I think we can run. I think our defensive backs can close. Now, open field tackling is going to be critical.
Yeah.
You get these great players on the perimeter, it's going to be critical. Kicking. They have a great kicking game, and so do we. We've demonstrated that. We got to cover.
Our defense is pretty. I mean, I believe our defense is pretty stacked at every level. Our defensive line, those guys can play with anybody in the country. Our linebackers, like you said, Colson is a beast. Barrett's, one of the best players statistically in Michigan history. These are not guys that I've worried about in the past that I think could only play in the Big Ten. And then, our defensive backs, they're creating turnovers, Coach. They're going to get the ball. They want the ball. You can tell when our defense is out there, we are dying to get the ball back for our offense. And it's evident with the way that they go after the ball. They're trying to punch it out. They're making plays. They don't just let stuff go over their head. They're turning and running. Which I've seen.
Well, Will Johnson is first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Will he's a lockdown corner.
Yeah.
And he did a great job against the best receiver and maybe the best player in college football, Marvin Harrison. And then he got hurt, which impacted on us. Then Harrison started to get the ball more. And he can play and cover anybody. Yeah. Now, they have a great speedster out there that can run past us, and we got to be wary of that and turn our hips at the right time. But I think Moore, Stainstrill, these guys are great players. Stainstrill's a great leader. And all these guys have potential to play on Sunday. So they're an elite group, an elite category.
Yeah, it's crazy. The more I look at both teams, I think we have, players that are going to play on Sunday. That's for sure. But they're both teams. Like the running back situation at Alabama, one guy's got 700 yards, one guy's got 500, one guy's got 200. Everybody's contributing. There's, every receiver's, got 5 or 6 touchdowns and, 400 yards. And there's not like we're saying, they don't have, Amari Cooper. They don't have Derrick Henry out there. Yeah, they don't have those guys, but they have guys at Alabama that are fighting to be one of the great Alabama teams. They're still in it. And they're, coming together in a team and playing for each other because there's not really any all-stars. And then I think our team, everybody came back. Everybody wants to play for. They're only, they're still talking about championship or bust. Like Blake Corum says, natty or bust. And it doesn't mean they're overlooking Alabama. It just means we set the standard in August. We were in camp. It was 2-a-days. This is what we said. It hasn't changed now that we're here. So we're excited for the challenge. We're ready to step up to the plate. And it's just going to be it's 2 blue bloods of college football, Michigan, Alabama. We both have 2 great teams. And it's going to be an unbelievable challenge for both teams, I think, across the board.
They got to wearing those they're still wearing those houndstooth hats down there for they got Bear Bryant. And this guy, I don't know how many national championships Saban has won, but he's won quite a few. So they have a magnificent tradition. And we have great respect for them. By the same token, the University of Michigan has won more football games than any other institution or any other college football team in history.
Yeah.
We've won three outright Big Ten championships, unprecedented, outright Big Ten championships. Our defense is only allowing 9 points a game. Their defense is allowing 18. Our defense is only allowed about 240 yards a game total offense. Their defense is allowed over 313, but they're both, they played, they're substantial teams. I don't think there is the biggest demarcation between the talent level in the SEC and the Big Ten that there has been. I think that gap is closed.
I wanted to ask you about that.
We'll find out. We're going to find out on on Monday. But Saban, I think, was way ahead of everybody. First of all, the level of our participation in Georgia, Alabama, and in Florida, Louisiana, is high. So there are great players that are playing down there that identify with these great schools. Coach Miles once told me that I have 17 great players before I start recruiting. Of course, the portal is now a factor, and that changes things. And the ability to bring in excellent players to fill in needs, like Coach Harbaugh has done with a tight end, with two really excellent linemen, and a kicker, has made a big difference in the success of this team. So Jimmy has approached it. They have player personnel sort of divisions as they evaluate the kids. But Nick has been doing this for a long time. Nick did not have a great experience. Now, he was not as successful as Jim was at San Francisco with the Niners.
You mean at Miami? Miami.
At Miami. He did not do as well. But he also, and he had experience in Cleveland under Belichick, that they approach it more like the professionals do, where the scouting is a higher level and they're doing a better job evaluating the kids. And so the one thing Saban does do, and I've heard this about him, he goes in when he has a visit with the kid, and he said the first thing he wants to know is he said, I want to know. I want to know. I want you to answer honestly. There's no right or wrong answer. If you love football, if you love the game so much that if you were denied playing it, you'd be devastated. Do you love playing football? And do you love it so much you'd be willing to come to an institution where you have to sit behind somebody for 2, maybe 3 years, knowing that when you get your opportunity, there's a good chance, if you're good enough to get that opportunity, you'll be a professional player and get drafted high. Are you willing to do that? And that's how he recruits. He's honest about it. So he wants guys that love the game, that have desire, that care about it, that are passionate about it. And our kids are the same. Because Jimmy, Jim loves the game. Jim is passionate about the game. So he gets kids that are, and so does Saban, whose values are aligned.
Yes.
They have the same values. They want to be great players. And they want to play great. They want to be part of a great team, and they want to win. And they want to win championships. So we have these, they very much have the same values in many ways. They both are gifted coaches with gifted staffs. Our staff at Michigan has really, I think, distinguished himself this year with the controversies that occurred during the course of the year that are behind us now. There's no sense talking about them because it's behind us and past. But I do believe that our quarterback can make the plays that are required to take us to the championship.
I agree.
I cannot remember teams that win the national championship that has not been behind a great quarterback performance. Now that's coaching, and you got to have a line blocking for you. That's team. But what's a quarterback, when you put the ball in his hands, if he can make the plays, we can win. So it is not all on JJ or Milroe, but I think you're going to see two great performances. I think the team that contains the other quarterback will have the best chance of winning. Now, the ball has points on it, and it bounces funny. And that's what's crazy about football. And the ball can bounce into a guy returning a punt, bounce off. The other guy can pick it up, score a touchdown, and it changes the whole complexion of the game. One thing that Saban is, and that we have to continue to be, is he is a field position coach. He's not going to take chances on fourth down when he knows he can punt you deep and change the field position. So then when he gets the ball back, he's in a position where he doesn't have to worry about getting the ball out of harm's way, and he can start to be more liberal in his play calling. That's how he looks at the game. He is as sound as you get in terms of football coach. He knows what he's doing, and he has experience. Our coach is the same. Our coach was a gifted player and a competitor. I was around him when he competed. He was a great leader. People coalesce around him. And we now have a quarterback that is very much the same as Jim and J.J. McCarthy. Although I hesitate to say it, I believe that J.J. is as good as anybody we've ever had at Michigan, including Coach Harbaugh. And it's hard. Now, when you talk about competitiveness in preparation for a game, it's hard to beat them. But and so we look at these teams, look at turnover differential. That's to our benefit. We look at kicking efficiency, and I consider net punt important thing. We're 41.8, they're 42. So they're great punting. They're great have a great field goal kicker. We have a field goal kicker that has really proven himself. That was at Louisville and then grew up in Saline.
Yeah.
You look at third down efficiency on offense. We're almost, we're 46.7. They're 46.7. On third down, their offense is going to be successful almost 47% of the time. That's a heck of a statistic. Our defense denies the opponent over 70% of the time. The opponent's only successful 31% of the time against our defense. But now it's a little bit better over there, but not much. 34% of the time, opponents are successful on third down against Alabama. Quarterback rating, the last 4 or 5 games, he's one of the top. Milroe is one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Throw out the previous games because that's who he is now. He is who he was the last 4 or 5 games. And our quarterback has been unbelievable. I mean, he completes almost 78%. When he goes back there and he's had drops. Alabama's had drops. Alabama historically has had drops. And so I look at Kansas City Chiefs and, Mahomes, but the drops he's endured.
This has been crazy season for his drops, Coach.
And so we look at football, game of errors. So dropping the ball. The receiver, his job is to get open and catch the ball. Dropping the ball. Missed tackles. Open field tackling. When you have players of this caliber, players with this speed, with the ability to make the first guy miss, open field tackling is going to be a big part of this game. I'm optimistic. I really feel good about our team. I like them. I like them as people. I like their attitude. I like how they conduct themselves. I do not know Alabama as well. But my sense is they're of the same ilk. But I'm really excited. Second game is going to be a great game, too. I think we have 4 outstanding teams that are all close to each other in the college football playoff. But at the same token, I can't wait till next year when we have 12, which I think will be better for everybody, as long, and this is a caveat people don't talk about, that we care about the players. The players are playing these games, so we have to give them enough time to recuperate. We have to give them enough opportunity to get back and get ready, and also at the same time try to go to school. And I don't know if they could adjust that. We don't want all incompletes for our players. We want to make steady progress towards a degree. And people should know this as we talk about the excitement and the focus of this game, that Coach Harbaugh is better than most in graduation percentage. And that should never be lost because these kids are young men. They're going to play in these magnificent games, have these opportunities. There's all this excitement and focus. But the guys that don't play pro football, even them.
Yeah, even the guys even the guys that go play pro football, they come out, they have no clue what they want to do.
Anything bad, but we don't want them working in the 7-Eleven, and we want them to get a degree in a chosen field so they can go on and be successful in life and take the great lessons of teamwork, competition, togetherness, perseverance, working for a common goal to their job and to their career and later on to their families so they can be successful in life. This is a human sport. These are humans out there playing the game. And you take those helmets off, they're fine young men. And they're our guys. They're the sons of Michigan. the sons of Alabama, and we want to see them do well in life too. We don't want to just stand up and cheer for them. And I do want to mention this about sports. When Michigan plays and they win a game and they beat Ohio State in the stands, that you don't know the guy next to you if he's a Republican or a socialist or a communist or a Democrat, whatever. You're high-fiving the guy. Same thing is true down in Alabama. So this great division in our country disappears because the sports brings us together.
Yeah.
And if anything it's doing now, sports and the arts and music, sports can bring us together. And it can allow us to focus on what we have in common, not the differences that we have, and to know that if we do have differences, we need to work those out in a rational manner. So sports is a wonderful thing. There's nothing like college football. It's a catalyst for a lot of good things. Enthusiasm for your university, enthusiasm for your state, your location, and it gives people a great sense of pride. And Michigan has the greatest fans in America. Alabama has the most knowledgeable fans in America. I'm telling you, those guys know football.
Yeah,
They can tell you about the gap. They can tell you, the one gap, two gap. They can tell you everything. I mean, they can tell you about 3 deep, 2 deep coverages. They're very sophisticated fans down there.
They're talking about the difference between the 3-4 and the 4-3 and how they're getting in and out of it and who they sub out. It's crazy.
They embrace the game, and they have great knowledge of the game.
I saw a guy in an Alabama t-shirt and a Bear Bryant shirt, and I was wearing a Michigan shirt, and I said, "Go Blue." He goes, "Roll Tide." Tips his hat to me. And it was, it was just a kind of a sign of respect. It was actually, he was smiled and was nice. And it just, what you're talking about, a college football, man, brings us all together. It was,
absolutely.
It was fun to see,
And I'm going to be honest with you. There's like 3 or 4 teams that I watch religiously. I watch, of course, Ohio State because I scout them every game.
Yeah.
I watch Notre Dame and I watch Alabama. I also like to watch SC. I've always loved to watch SC and the great teams they've had. And they had a big victory the other night.
Well, that's what
I mentioned.
I was going to ask.
Big Ten is 3-0.
I was going to ask you about that. You talk about how TV contracts changed Michigan football and changed, football, college football forever. Like that's kind of how Notre Dame and Michigan were both. They were broadcasted everywhere. We have such a wide fan base. It's kind of like USC, Texas, Michigan, Notre Dame. These teams were on TV, and that's why people align themselves with them. It's why we get Jabril Peppers out from New Jersey. That's why we get people from all over the country, is because we get these TV contracts.
Yeah.
And now
Michigan has always had a great national following, and we have the greatest biggest alumni living body and living alumni in the world, and they're all over the place. I was in Hong Kong talking to a vice president of a big company there, and he had a Michigan degree behind his. So Michigan is broad and wide. Its influence, who it is, respected for its academics. But Alabama, interestingly enough, way back, Rune Arlich at ABC decided he wanted to take college football. It was always the pros play on Sunday, high school's on Friday, college football 1:00 on Saturday afternoon. Rune Arlich decided he wanted to play night games way back, and none of the coaches wanted to do it. It disrupts our schedule. We don't want to do it. The one guy who said, I want to do it. In fact, he pursued Rune Arlich and ABC, was Bear Bryant, because he knew when he played on Saturday night, he would get tremendous exposure for Alabama nationally, and he did. And that's what helped bring national to the forefront of the nation. And that was Bear Bryant. He had great marketing savvy, and understood that he wanted to embrace that opportunity. By the same token, when the SEC had not integrated, he asked John McKay, and there's some wonderful documentaries about this, to bring his great SEC team to Alabama. And McKay was reluctant to do it. When he had Sam the Bam Cunningham and great players, and he brought him to Tuscaloosa, and they soundly beat a Alabama team that had not been integrated.
Sorry,
And Alabama
what
did
team
it
was
to
this?
demonstrate. This was way back in probably 69, when he convinced John McKay to bring, and it's been very documented, and I can't give you the details, but he wanted the people to see
Yeah.
in a state that embraced segregation, horrible policies that of prejudice and oppression, to see these great African American and black players that SC had,
Yeah.
and open their minds. And then he brought the first black player he brought the next year, named Wilbur Marshall. And since then, of course, the SEC's been integrated. But Bear was a guy who grew up with nothing in Fordyce, Arkansas. He was the poorest guy in Fordyce, Arkansas, which means you were poor because the poorest guy was poor.
Yeah.
And the wealthiest person was poor. So he didn't discriminate. He just looked at hardworking people and evaluated people that way.
Didn't Bo coach an All-Star game with Bear or something? Isn't there a funny story that you have?
There's a great story about Bear. Bear called up Bo, said, "I want you to come out and coach the offense." They're playing the East-West game in San Francisco. And he said, Bear said, "Oh, Bo said, I don't coach. I don't, but you didn't turn down Bear Bryant. Okay, I'll do it." And, Bo, there are a lot of great players on both sides. And so Bo was coaching the offense and calling the plays, and he's behind going into halftime. And Bear said to him, "Coach Schembechler, when I coach, I win. Now, I got to get going here, but I don't expect to lose. And don't you lose this game." He said, Bear walked down the end zone, got in the limousine, and left. He said, then I subsequently lost the game to the other team, and he called me up and said, "I'm really disappointed in you, Bo. It made me look bad. So he has a great character, and there's a great Bear Bryant stories, as there are Schembechler stories. That was a different era. But these two teams have these great traditions, and they've had great people involved, players and coaches. Joe Namath, an unbelievable man and player that is revered and among professional football players, old and new, and all the great players, Tom Brady, and all these great players Michigan's had.
Yeah, Tom Brady's last game was against Alabama.
Yeah, that's right, and he was good. He played in the Orange Bowl, I think. Tom was great.
Yeah.
He demonstrated how great he was. Actually, that was perhaps his best game as collegiate.
Yeah.
His ability to put the ball where it had to go. One thing about
baby.
Tom, and Lloyd said this about me, he didn't have strongest arm, but he was the most accurate quarterback I have ever seen. And of course, Tom went on to demonstrate more than that. Tremendous capacity for work, understanding the game, and a great competitive spirit, and a brilliance. I miss him. Miss him. He's retired. I just look forward to watching Tom Brady every Sunday.
Coach, another thing that people don't realize, Mark Ingram was from Flint, Michigan. They're Alabama's first ever Heisman Trophy winner is a kid from Flint that we wanted but didn't get. And then, there's a lot of
Heisman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't they haven't historically come up here too much.
No.
But I will tell you this. Coach Saban calls up Clarence Blackwell, who runs Sound Mind, Sound Body.
Yep.
And is a friend of ours every week, because Curtis is in touch with all the coaches and the great players.
Yeah.
And so Saban's a great recruiter, smart, stays in touch.
Well, Saban's Midwest guy.
Friendship with him.
Michigan State, Ohio State, that's Cleveland. This is where he came up. He's from West Virginia.
He grew up in West Virginia.
Yeah.
He grew up in West Virginia, and he played at West Virginia, but Kent State University, where my mom and dad went. He played at Kent State, a defensive back. Lou Holtz went to Kent State. Luke Saban went to Kent State. Edelman went to Kent. All these great players in the Midwest, and that's where he learned his football. And he also learned from Belichick. And Belichick's big influence was his father, Steve Belichick, who was from Youngstown, Ohio. So all these guys, if you want, we can talk about this on a different sportcast. There's a great coach named Coach Earl Red Blake.
Yeah.
Paul Brown. These guys invented the game. Coach Hayes. And, you can look at these things. Bill Walsh, 7 degrees of Earl Brake.
Yeah.
Lombardi coached for Earl Red Blake, who went to Miami of Ohio, grew up in Dayton, and then went to the United States Middle Academy. Lombardi coach was his line coach at Army. So all these guys come from the Midwest, and it's the great ethic that exists in the Midwest. The blue collar, the Rust Belt, the tough kids, hard-working kids, kids that are willing to sacrifice like their parents did to be great and play the games, and the great enthusiasm there is for high school football, but also the kids' extracurricular activities. No matter what they are in high school, there's a great focus on young people in these states.
Yeah.
And that's why they've turned out, had these great teams, and they have this great history. And a lot of these great coaches have been influenced by, Paul Brown was the first guy, there's so much,
Yeah. Well,
we
Saban
can talk about.
Yeah.
They put the face mask on. Paul Brown put the face mask on. Paul Brown was the first guy to modernize passing. Our great coach Chrysler was the first guy to do 2 platoon. There's influences tremendous among these men who were great leaders and educators.
Yeah.
So we have two great, and I believe Nick Saban approaches the same way. I think he loves the kids. I think he's demonstrated. I think he thrives on coaching and coaching young people. He doesn't have to coach ever again, yet he continues to do it. I do think he's humble. I don't see hubris there. Jimmy, on the other account, could be perceived as that, but Jimmy loves the kids.
Yeah.
And I hope that we sign him. He's been an extraordinary coach for us. He's brought us back into national, where we've been top nationally. He's brought us back to the top. There's a great deal of credit, and I'm forever grateful to him for doing that, and a loyal supporter of his.
Well, that's what I was going to say,
mistakes,
Coach.
But we all do, and we need to always follow the rules scrupulously, whatever we do.
Well, we're talking about
Harbaugh's
coaches
Michigan
and how,
man.
Yeah, and how great Saban is, but our coach, pretty good, comes from a pretty heralded coaching tree himself. His dad, his brother, they're not bad coaches.
His brother-in-law is Tom Crean. He had great but had a lot of good basketball teams.
Absolutely, at Indiana, and now he has $125 million 10-year offer on the table. So, what do you think about this? What do you think about this stupid can't talk to NFL for a year thing? Do you think it even matters if he should? Do you think that somebody should be limited like that, or do you think that's something?
No.
It's hard with recruiting, but does it? If your head coach is constantly getting scouted by the pros, that should help recruiting as well. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, and what do you think is going to happen?
I think there's part of Jimmy that wants to go to the Super Bowl and win it. I believe that. That's who he is. Played 14 years in the National Football League. He coached in the National Football League. He got his team there, got beat by his brother. I think there's part of him, and I can't blame him. Heck, a big part of me was I could coach a team to the Super Bowl. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
What a challenge. What an opportunity to be the best in the world. I also think that as he's evolved, he has this wonderful relationship with his players right now. I mean, the kind of relationship that's difficult to attain in professional football, because you don't want to get too close to them, because you got to cut them sooner or later.
Yeah.
As the diminution of skill sets in, you got to get rid of the players and trade them for better players, and then reduce their salaries, and all these things that are very difficult to do, and the players recognize the business part of it too. But during their formative years, you can play such a big role in who they are and who they become. And I think Jim recognizes that. I think he relishes that. I think he enjoys that greatly. And the response and the love that comes back to him, I think he likes that too, and he should, and it's deserved because it goes both ways. He loves these kids, and he loves them. Boy, the loyalty and the commitment they have to each other. They care about each other, and like he says, we trust each other. And so, anyway, I think that you shouldn't restrict a guy if he wants to go pro, go pro. We have a couple great coaches sitting there, and Mentor and Sharon. that could come right into the position, and I'm certain you'd have to surround himself with some older guys that maybe could help him a little bit, but with some wisdom and how to run programs and things like that. But they've demonstrated they can do it, and they're great coaches. So we have that, and I hope that we're talking to those guys and making sure we can keep them.
To start your coaching search, you would immediately look inward at those two guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd also give Mike Hart the courtesy of an interview and some other guys there that deserve to be talked to and then make a good judgment on what they have to say. But there's no question those guys they've demonstrated the ability to coach on that level and to run a team and an organization. Now it's bigger, to be the head coach is a bigger thing. You got to have public relations, all sorts of stuff you got to do. But they've been around, and they're young men, and they're talented, and I think they have charisma. Mentor's a little quieter, but Sharon doesn't say a lot either. But the kids, I could see react to. They seek their affirmation. They react to them. They take coaching well. Their teams are disciplined, well organized. They have technique. They're skilled. So they've proven that they know what is required to live on this level. So I want Jim to do well. The amount of money that's being paid it's the market. Coaches didn't make it this way. The coaches, you give them $100,000, they'd be happy to coach. Somehow it got out of control. The whole thing's out of control, the NIL and everything else. But I don't know where Michigan would find a better coach than Jim Harbaugh. I'd like to see who he is, and I'd like to meet him because I think he has a sense of the place. When you come to Michigan, it is important you understand what the place is, because this is it's an extraordinary place. It's a special place. Academics are the most important thing to the university.
Yeah.
We want to turn out qualified individuals and young people, and we have great students. We have great faculty. So you got to respect that. But I always say the difference between us and maybe some Ivy League institutions is we want to have the best English department, anthropology department, dental school, whatever it is, medical school, whatever it is. We want to have the best in the country. But we also want to win the national championship in every single sport we compete in. And we think that you could do that without compromising yourself. And you can try to be excellent across the board. And that's what we endeavor to do. And that is the greatness of Michigan, in my estimation.
Yeah.
So we have a great school. We love it. We respect these other schools. I like Alabama. I like to watch them play. I like to watch his teams. I respect him greatly. And, Michigan for me is, it is in our blood. It is who we are. When we enrolled in Michigan, we enrolled for life, and we love it. We revere it, and we have a great debt of gratitude to it. And we want to see the young people that play for us excel and do well, conduct themselves well. And as I told them, when they run on that field and they touch that banner, every single man that wore that great uniform and that helmet runs out there with them. And thousands and maybe millions of fans support them and do the same. And all we hope is that they give a good account of themselves and that they play their very best. And then we'll let the chips lie where they may. But I believe if we play a great game and we limit mistakes, no missed mistakes. We have not been a penalty team. Alabama gets twice. Alabama's not a penalty team, but they still get twice as many as we do. And they don't turn the ball over. So we have a great chance to win this game and go to the next step. But this is a formidable barrier. This is the Rocky Mountains. This is Alabama.
Well,
and so it's going to be fun.
Milroe said it after they won. He goes, "Why aren't we the best team in the league? We just beat the team that went 29-0." That's what he said after the Georgia-Alabama game. So, they're feeling confident.
So the rankings don't mean a hell of a lot right now, do they?
No.
And the spread, what does the spread mean?
It
doesn't mean damn.
It means zero.
Because I'm not thinking about it. Are you thinking about it going to this game? Who's rated number one or who's rated number two? It does not matter. We're there.
Yeah.
All four of those teams can make a legitimate case that they are number one. And I think Georgia and Ohio State probably feel the same way.
Yeah,
they think they had great teams and they got nicked and they lost one game and either the games could have gone either way. So And the people at Florida State, of course, are deeply
Oh,
injured.
pissed.
And I feel sorry for them. We'll see. I hope they play well against Georgia, but they've had this
Nobody's
great.
playing. All the NFL guys are sitting out because they're pissed.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Um,
I don't know how we're gonna. That'll have to be resolved.
well,
I
12-team
don't blame.
playoff is how it's.
Yeah, 12. But then what happens to the lesser bowls? Are they important? Is it important that Army goes to a bowl? I think so. I think the Army staff and the Army players would say we'd love to go to a bowl, even though we're not in the top 12.
But I would say after the top 12 teams, the amount of players that have a chance at the NFL considerably shrink.
Yeah, but I think, they're all going to have good teams, and no question.
I think
so. I think the lesser bowls are still. I think they're great, and they're.
Well, did you see USC backup quarterback? He lit it up for 6 touchdowns, Coach.
Yeah. He played great. He played great.
He stepped in there and played amazing.
And the wonderful thing coaches feel about bowl games, it's more practice and a chance to develop your younger players.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, that's 20 more practices or whatever you get. It's limited, but it's a chance to improve as a young person too. And if you're a kid who doesn't want to go, I don't care where it is, the Potato Bowl and whatever the hell it is in Idaho, they all want to go and play, and it's a nice ambition. I think maybe they got to once we have this, maybe they got to go more than 6 wins.
Yeah.
But I think the Mid-American teams, it's a great opportunity for those kids
to
go play.
It was nice to watch Bowling Green versus Minnesota. Nice to watch Coach Leffler.
And this Eastern Michigan coach has done a magnificent job.
Coach.
So it's an opportunity.
I agree, but wow, did they go out there and get their butts kicked?
They did.
That was crazy. I did not expect that because that guy runs a tight program. They're disciplined kids, but man, they went a long way. They brought a whole bunch of cinder blocks to break before, and that was about all they did all day. It was sad to see, but
yeah. But in the end, not too many people can remember the score when you go to a bowl game.
No.
And they might remember. But, Bo spoke a long time. He went to the Salad Bowl, for God's sake, whatever that was. When he
did you ever get to win a Rose Bowl? I forgot to ask you that.
Oh, yeah. We won in 81. We had a great team in the country. We beat a great Washington team. Woolfolk and Carter and Wangler and those guys, Bostic. We had a great team. A lot of those kids went on and played pro football. That team was the best in the country. And at the end, the momentum, we had lost 2 games early. Early against Notre Dame and the South Carolina team with the Heisman Trophy winner, George Rogers. But at the end of that season, no one would beat. No one. Bubba Paris, Edmund, no one's going to beat that team.
Yeah.
The momentum we had, the way that team came together. And so that's why it's going to be great to have a 12-team playoff. I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I do worry about the players. I worry about, the difficulty of the schedule. You only have so many football games in you. So we got to take care of the kids. We don't want it to be too many games. We also are going to play home games in cold weather. And that'll be an interesting phenomenon. It would have been fine in Ann Arbor. It would have been 50 degrees. But many years, the first week in December is not, it's not, the climate is not as.
They've shown that the kids can get the work done at the FCS level, at the NAIA level, at the Division III level. The kids still get their schooling done. They take all their tests. They get, they make it through. They don't take incompletes. And, they still, have a great following. And they play up north. All the Division III games are up north because it's Mount Union and Whitewater. And, they're playing deep, scraping off the fields and stuff. No
question.
So
I never want the focus to come off the individual player and the kid that's playing, his development as a person, intellectually, spiritually, as an athlete, intellectually. If I said that twice, I didn't mean it. We got to keep that is college football, and it's not just a minor league. Now the NFL has the best deal in the world because they have a great minor league and they don't pay a cent.
Yeah,
they put no money out for it, and they profit by it. But college football is a wonderful institution, but we cannot lose sight of the kids. They are people. We got to take care of them. We got to help them get through. We got to give them the academic support that they need. Some kids come from impoverished, deprived backgrounds. We're going to make sure that they have every opportunity to do well in the classroom and develop. All the kids have all sorts of ability, cognitively, intellectually, and athletically, and we need to foster those
Yeah,
in every
absolutely.
way. And we cannot, when we get involved in this football,
We won't
we can't
compromise it.
lose sight of that.
I
We
don't think.
can't lose sight of it.
Yeah. Well, one
Well,
thing.
we won't, but we won't. But some might argue it has been.
Yeah.
We got to
So
care. Let's care about the kids. Let's care about the
absolutely.
kids.
Couple things also I wanted to mention. You talked about playing a Washington team on the Rose Bowl. The Washington team is in the Final Four. My buddy and your friend's son, Nick Sheridan, is coaching. He just won Pac-10, 12, or sorry, yeah, Pac-10 or 12, Pac-12 Coach of the Year for the tight end position. So really proud of
Oh,
him.
wow.
Yeah, he
That's
just
fabulous. I didn't know.
yeah,
I did not know.
it just came out on Friday. So
We should get a raise. Should get a raise.
yeah, we hopefully he gets a raise. He's done a tremendous job everywhere he's been at. I'm excited to see him coach against us in the national championship. But that being said, they are playing a great Texas team that I wanted to hint on this before too, because we have a quarterback. Texas has a great quarterback. Alabama struggled with them. They haven't seen many great quarterbacks throughout their season besides this Quentin Ewers kid, and now they're going to see our guy. So I think that is one thing that kind of is a parallel from that game. I know every game is its own game, but that was a great Texas team. They were playing them in Texas, which is I can only imagine a hostile environment. Second game of the season, and Texas's quarterback showed up. So hopefully we can do that. And I just wanted to get your, because the other team that did beat Alabama, they are in the Final Four.
Well, it's a gifted Texas team.
Yeah.
I mean, they are loaded. They have a backup quarterback that is makes more in NIL than Brock Purdy makes in the NFL.
Yeah.
The Manning kid.
Yeah.
Who's, I guess, making a choice about what he's going to do, but I'm sure he's going to be a great player. And I know they were tired when they recruited him. Texas is loaded. By the same token, this Washington coach, I mean, he had great up there in the Dakotas. He had great teams. He's won national championships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy.
He's the real deal. And
he is showing. And when he was at Indiana, they had the best teams.
Yeah.
And with Penix, and he took Penix with him, of course, but that helped him along. Penix can make every throw. Now they've gone against Caleb at SC, the great Heisman Trophy winner,
Bo Nix.
So they've seen great quarterbacking. But by the same token, as of late, their defense has given up a lot of points. Now, part of it is when you play wide open football, like they do, and the other teams do in the Pac-10. It's not run-oriented. Like Alabama and Michigan are run-oriented. I'm telling you, they're going to rush the ball, both teams. The coaches believe in it. There's a tendency for the defense not to be as stiff and to give up more points. So the games become sort of who has the ball last.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want to avoid that at all costs. Like to put the game away early. But, as I look across these teams in the Final Four, I mean, and no disrespect to TCU, but there's no TCU or there's no Cincinnati in there.
No.
And they had great teams and they were deserving to get in. But there's no team that is markedly in terms of the quality and the talent, the athletic talent. There's that disparity between any of these teams. They all have great players on these teams. They all have great coaching. Sarkanian, of course, was the head coach at SC, but then he, of course, was longtime assistant to Saban at Alabama. And of course, the board, everybody thinks highly of.
Yeah.
And really a great coach. So I think we have 4 great coaches, demonstrated ability.
4 great quarterbacks, too.
4 great traditions.
Yeah.
Traditions.
Traditions. Yeah.
Texas football is religion. Washington has had great teams. We went up great, with the great coach out there, who had coached at Michigan, defensive Don Fitzgerald. They've had great teams out there historically, and gifted players. And Alabama speaks for itself. We spoke about that at length. And in Michigan, we think as a tradition,
Yeah.
we have our own tradition with great players. And when you look at the great players that have played in the history of the game, John Hanna, Dan Dierdorf, Joe Namath, I think Amari is. I love that kid, the receiver.
Yeah.
C.D. Lamb is on his way. Kenny Stabler, Tom Brady, Jake Long, Steve Hutchinson, Ron Kramer, the great Ron Kramer. Lombardi said he was when he had Ron Kramer on the field, he had 12 players, and he was a great player at Michigan. It was like I had tight end, had 12 men, and he said when I had my great teams with Starr and the other Kramer, Ron Kramer, and all these great players, Forrest Gregg, who many considered the greatest tackle to ever play, he said my best player was Kramer. And Dierdorf, I think you can make a case for him being the greatest player to ever play at Michigan. Unbelievably gifted player. Great man, too. Great friend. And Charles Woodson and Anthony Carter. And then I could go on and on about these traditions and the great players that have played there. And we are going to witness players that are going to go down in history at both schools next Monday.
Well, and Coach, we're talking about players. This is one of the last things I wanted to talk to you about before our final, comments on the game. But it seemed for years that Alabama was 4 deep. You're talking about how he went in there. He told kids about this is how we recruit you. You're going to have to sit about great players. You're going to have NFL players. Seems he was 4 deep across the board for years. And nobody else could recruit with him like he was recruiting. No one else could get the same kids there and to buy in and not transfer like Nick Saban could. I feel with, the TV deals, with NIL, with all these other great coaches that are now have established themselves at other universities, like Jim Harbaugh has been around for a while. They're not recycling coaches. He's lost a lot of coordinators. That guy Kirby Smart went over there, took a lot of people from him. Now it seems like, yeah, he's maybe 1 or 2 deep, but maybe he's not 3 and 4 deep. Maybe he's not the deepest team in the country anymore. Maybe it's more equal between Michigan and Alabama, that our ones and our twos are just as good as theirs ones and theirs twos. And this is all because of all the things that are happening recruiting-wise in college football. I mean, does that have any credit and merit, or is it just kind of like, this is what's going on this year, Michigan's good? Or has the landscape of college football completely changed? Has Kirby Smart, Deion Sanders, the transfer portal, how people are moving throughout college football, has that changed Nick Saban's effectiveness maybe, or why people are underestimating him and, when he has this great team and he's in the college football playoff?
Well, at the beginning, they were critical of his team, but
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is saying bad things about him now. So what did I just talk about at length? Who are the 4 teams in this?
Yeah.
Michigan. Always been a great team.
Yeah.
Always had great teams. And historically, great teams since Yost. Texas. Always. The great coaches down there. Darrell Royal. Unbelievable teams. Great players. Alabama. Great players. Washington. Historically great schools. These are big, powerful schools. Now, I think NIL can change things as it relates to maybe 1 or 2 players. Like, for instance, I understand this quarterback that's going to Nebraska got the biggest NIL deal in history.
Yeah.
That originally committed to Georgia and then moved.
His uncle coaches at Nebraska, just to let you know that.
His uncle coached at Nebraska, and also, but his father was a great player for the Lions.
Yeah.
Played for years.
Yeah.
That, I think, maybe historically he would have gone to Georgia. Just gone to Georgia, there wouldn't have been NIL consideration. But I think that's only going to be the top players, the 5 stars that are highly sought after. I think the guys who probably are going to get the most NIL money are the highly prized portal players, because those guys can play.
Oh yeah.
They anticipate that this kid is going to be a great quarterback, and every indication is he will be, and I hope he will be. But they do not know that yet. But when you have a player, it's like the NFL. They look for the guys that are drafted in the fifth round to become starters, that sign contracts that are not that big, and when they're after about their second or third year, then they're starters and they develop. Then they get pursued with free agency, and they get big money. So I think that college football is going to kind of mirror that if the portal arrangement stays the same. In fact, it's going to become where there is no portal restriction. You could transfer 2 times or 3 times. So I think the biggest opportunities, much like Hunter Dickinson in basketball for Michigan, got big numbers from Kansas because they thought he was the last piece of the puzzle for them. You'll see the portal players getting great opportunity. But historically, the great schools are still going to attract high school students because of the strong affiliations that people have, an identification they have with the great programs. And then those big schools actually fundamentally have the resources with, who has greater resources, I got to be honest with you, than Michigan when it comes to wealthy, a number. Everybody has, successful alumni, but the number of truly, truly wealthy, very wealthy alumni who potentially want to support the program through an NIL program, I think probably Michigan might be unmatched. And forget about the enthusiasm other schools have. I'm telling you, the guys they have in big positions around the country with a lot of dough that care about the program are out there. And so they're going to try to help that way.
I just know there was,
for one, think the whole thing has to be somehow harnessed. I think that Saban's always going to have great teams. He knows how to recruit. He's going to, and Jimmy too. And if it's the X's and O's, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Willies and the Joes. So you don't get good players, you're not going to have good teams. And that's true in and out of the portal. At the same time, you can't do wholesale portal, so change your whole team, because you have to have a culture, and you have to develop players within the program to get them to where you want them to be over time, and that takes maturation, work in the weight room, and also the psychology that develops among the players and the desire to be excellent and win and know how to win and how to channel their energy positively towards playing well and doing all the right things that are required to be an excellent player in college and making the sacrifices. So I think that we got to get the whole thing under control. I have no idea how to do it. I think the NCAA appears to be in the way of it. In my estimation right now, the big schools should get together, develop the conferences appropriately, and then try to get a handle on this thing. And it might be through profit sharing with the players. The players certainly need to participate in this. And Jimmy has talked about it. The new president of the NCAA has talked about it, because I think he sees, they have the basketball tournament, but they're not as influential in football. And so it appears to me somehow we have to get some central control over what's happening, not the different heads of the leagues. And I think the presidents of the universities got to come up with an idea to do that. I know that our President Ono, is involved in that, to try to look at NIL and even the portal and see how to do it the right way without restricting the rights of movement for any player. Also letting the players participate in all this tremendous revenue they generate, but at the same time controlling it so it can sustain itself.
Yeah.
So that's
Well,
That's
I do think that these things have affected maybe Alabama's depth is what it was in maybe 10 years ago, but I don't think it's changed the team that they are.
I'd have to go to practice.
Yeah,
I'd have to go to practice.
David Pollock last year, who got fired from College Game Day this year, looked at Nick Saban when Nick Saban was at the national championship, said Alabama's role is over, Georgia's here, Georgia, and now Alabama beat Georgia this year.
Well, only scores your last game, and then you lose a game and you lost to Texas, so the program had disintegrated at Alabama. What I mean? That's like Ryan Day, poor Ryan Day. He wins every game and loses to us, and he's the worst coach in America.
So I just want people to know that
unyielding.
When we beat Alabama, we're beating a good team. And that's kind of like.
Oh no, God, anybody doesn't think Alabama's a hell of a team. Look at them.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not see. You find a weakness for me.
Yeah, there's not.
You identify the weakness. Now, I will say this, and you talked about it. The receiver's kind of by committee, and the running backs are by committee. So they're not sitting there with, like the Amari Gibbs that we have that plays for the Lions. That was a great back.
Jameer Gibbs.
Jameer.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there with Jameer. They're not sitting there with CeeDee Lamb or Javonte Smith, who both caught for the ball for 1,800 yards, 2,000 yards almost for, I think, Javonte, and no one could cover him. It could run by anybody, and he's done the same thing with the Eagles. So I don't see that player out there, but they do have guys. If they get the ball, they can hurt you.
Yeah.
But I don't see the great players in those positions. Good, yes. Does Saban know how to utilize them? Yes. Are they the same caliber as some of the players I've had? I'm not certain, but are they good? Good enough to play in the NFL? Probably. Yeah. So we're not, so show me a weakness. That's the only thing you can talk about, and that is just, you're cutting up verbs. So instead of one guy gaining 1,200 yards, they got three guys. What's the difference? They still gain 1,200 yards. They're still effective running the ball.
Yeah.
So, they just do it a different way. He just does it in pieces. But the great right receiver now, we've seen Marvin Harrison. It changes your defense because you can't sit out there with one guy on those guys because they will get you. And so I think that's going to allow us to get our safeties and run support. I think that Will Johnson, I think we're going to be able to cover him on the corners. I think when the ball's in the middle, there's more difficulty. But I think when the ball's in the hash, it'll help. Now, Nick's going to go deep. He's going to throw the ball deep, and I hope we do too, by the way. Because I think Roman Wilson can run by anybody, even their great corners that are going to be first-round draft picks. I mean, I think Roman Wilson, I think he's as fast as any man in football. And Coach, they have a guy that can run.
Yeah.
But, when you run past someone, you still got to turn on the ball and catch it.
Well, go ahead.
These are things, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here is the same thing we talk about. No turnovers, no missed assignments, no drop passes, no missed tackles. Sustain your block. Sustain your block through the whistle. Sustain your block. When you're a running back, when you get hit by the first guy, your legs do not die. But when that happens, you have security on the ball because the second and third guy's going to come in and try to strip you. So all those fundamental things, wide receiver blocking, we got to be at our very best. And then the choices that the quarterbacks make it's going to be critical. If we can force them and the mistakes and take advantage of those mistakes, we have a great chance to win. Turnovers.
Well, that's what you said also about the Big Ten championship. I asked you for your prediction. You don't do predictions. I said that Iowa wasn't going to score a point, and they didn't. And I believe that we're going to beat Bama by 3 points, in my estimation.
Now you know more than me.
Yeah,
but I'm not.
So now that's my prediction. What do you think's going to happen on?
So here's my prediction.
The first.
Here's what I'm concerned about. I think Michigan. I'm optimistic about our chances.
Yep.
And I think Michigan will win. And if we win by 1 or 3, it doesn't matter to me. We move on. But What I'm concerned about is what the team should be concerned about, and that is our offense. The first down, then the next first down, and then the next first down. And our defense needs to be concerned about the first series and the first stop,
Yeah.
and then the stop, and no good plays on first down. Force them into passing situations on second down, or situations you ordinarily have to pass by giving them a negative play or a bad play on first down. So let's start at the beginning, one step at a time towards victory. Now, we have a disciplined group of kids. They're tough. They're ambitious. They have plans, big plans. But it's one thing to have plans, next thing to execute it. So now is the time when they go out to play what historically is the greatest, best program, the dominant program in the country in the 21st century, and prove themselves worthy of going on to the next step. So that's where I am on it. Let's get the first down.
Love it.
And then let's get the first stop.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Okay.
Last thing, Coach, just I want you to touch on, and then we'll let you go for the day. I've had you on here for an hour and a half now.
Oh, well, I'm getting tired.
What you went to the awards banquet for the Michigan program. You talked about it a little throughout the thing. They honored, this is some of the great Michigan tradition, they honored people that have dedicated their life to the program for over a certain amount of years. And they gave them an M ring. Usually you only get an M ring if you play 4 years at the University of Michigan on the football team. And now they did it for some coaches. So now you have 2 M rings. You have a player's M ring and a coach's M ring. And then they asked you, and Coach Harbaugh let you talk a little bit. How was that? What was that like? How did the tradition feel that night? How did the togetherness feel that night? And what did the boys look like going into the next game, going down to California to start practicing?
So Jim is inclusive, and he makes you feel part of it, and I'm grateful for that. There were some periods of time I had played and coached there, dedicated in broadcast, and dedicated a significant part of my life towards the university. And there were times when I felt disconnected, which is nobody's fault. I think it was people's fault. You got to reach out to the old guys. Other schools have done a good job, and we're doing much better at it. And so it was Jim's effort to be inclusive, but also recognize that the success of the program is built on, there are people that are trainers and equipment managers and
Paul Schmidt,
and
I know,
secretaries, and great people. Mary Pasick was secretary there for years and years and years, and a wonderful person, and supported the team and the program, and made sacrifices to help.
Mike Gittleson.
Some financial. Well, the great Gittleson, of course, is the great, perhaps arguably the greatest strength coach in the history of the sport.
That's another episode talking about him too.
And a brilliant guy, and put 170 guys in the NFL, and is still active helping strength and conditioning coaches. And the biggest innovation in football has been the development of the individual player strength from a strength and conditioning standpoint. That has changed things dramatically and reduced injuries. A lot of important things go with that. So all these people were recognized. Jim allowed me to talk, and I said I had the great good fortune of both playing and coaching at Michigan, which is a great honor, and that was a great honor. But I recognized that our team in '73 had been undefeated and denied the opportunity to go to a bowl game by a manufactured vote of the athletic directors by the Big Ten commissioner. And the bitterness remains among the guys that were not denied that right, undefeated team. And so
50 years ago, Coach.
And I hope those guys, when you go out there and you win this game, you'll remember the old 73 guys, the old guys from 1973 that had a great undefeated team, as good as anybody in the country, and they were denied the right to play anywhere by antiquated rules in the Big Ten, and how much I admired, respected. But I consider a remarkable group of young men. There's a thing called chemistry. There's also a thing called the it factor. It's hard to put your finger on. People use the heart. You got heart. Heart's an organ in the body, but you got heart. There's something extra. They do something with some extra verve or enthusiasm or passion. They have heart. Well, this team has heart. They got it. They got the it factor. And I've been around teams that had the it factor. They come together. They coalesce as a group. It can happen in a business. It can happen in sports. It certainly happen in the arts. You come together, and the momentum and the feeling that exists between the group, the selflessness and the commitment to excellence, it's hard to stop. They are a band of brothers. They truly are. They deeply care about each other, and they have the great respect for each other. And it's unusual. There's nobody up there, nobody that talked about themselves. Not one people say, I really am grateful to have this honor, and had a great career. Nobody's. You know what they said? The guys in the room. It's the guys in my room. I owe this to them. I owe it to my teammates. And JJ said, who was voted most valuable player, and he was most valuable player in the Big Ten, as he should have been, said, men, this is nice, but this is not over. So let's continue. Let's continue our march. It's not over. We're going to keep moving. And I'm with you. Let's go.
Beautiful. Hey, that's great. That's good enough for me.
Remarkable.
Let's continue.
Well, go blue. It's going to be exciting. This is going to be one of the great matchups in history, in my opinion. And that's easy to say. We always have the greatest matchups in history. But this is going to be fun. And I look forward to it. Look forward to it, and go blue.
Look forward to it, Coach. Go blue. Thanks for coming on again. It was good talking to you.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Okay.